Welcome to the Herpcore History podcast, presented to you by Little Shop of Horrors. Feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms for any of your feeder needs. All right, let's go ahead and get into this episode. All right, today I'm joined by Nathan Martinez from Texas Made Morphs. How you doing today, Nathan?
Doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just feeding rats today, and then looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, I hear you.
Getting ready for this cold weather we got coming.
Yeah, I did a few things getting ready for that today. Then tomorrow I got to do some more stuff to prepare for that. So
yeah, hopefully it ends up being no big deal, but we'll see. Better to be prepared than not. I wasn't prepared the last time we had an issue.
Well, I think you're closer. We was close last time it got bad. Last time. I guess whenever I say last year, last time, whatever. But we was down there close to you. Yes. Then now that we're up here back in East Texas, it gets a little bit worse. So
yeah, you guys are getting the real brunt of it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to catch us here. At least my county, my hometown here. So hopefully it don't.
Well, so on that point, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in a little town called Joaquin, Texas, deep East Texas, right on the border of Louisiana, Sabine River. Yeah, and pretty much spent of course, I'd go back and forth to South Texas because I had family down there. So growing up, in the summertime and stuff like that, we'd go to South Texas, but for the most part, East Texas, all the way until I was about 18. Then I went to South Texas, and then, small little town, though, small county. The biggest town in our county is like 5,000 people.
And then where did your interest for reptiles come in? Was that something you experienced when you were younger, or did it happen when you were older?
That's kind of hard to say, especially I guess I'm kind of different from the other people you've been talking with. I always had an interest for sure because I've always loved animals in general, and always like if anytime you went to the zoo or anything, the first place me and my brother would go is to the reptile house. The reptile park actually. And then of course back in the day, I always loved the animal shows on Animal Planet, Discovery, all that. I'd rather watch that than anything else. I remember. What was his name? Austin Stevens and them guys, just watching them. Yeah. But I was definitely later in the sense of getting into it, obviously. But I always had an interest in it, but nobody around me. I didn't grow up with anybody with reptiles or nothing like that.
Yeah.
Well, besides my good buddy Patrick, he did have an iguana when I was real young. We was in elementary. I'd go spend the night, and he'd wake me up by putting it on me and stuff like that,
Yeah, that either gets people into it or really gets them not into it at all. But
I'd be lying if I say it didn't kind of make me nervous or scare me, because it was kind of a big one. Don't let me lie to you about what kind it was, but
iguanas are no joke. Iguanas are no joke, man. If they want to bite you, it's not a fun experience. They have real teeth.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, no. And that's so interesting, right? As everybody kind of gets their own pathway to this. And so I think it's cool to talk to someone that, hey, came into this a little bit later. And so when you did finally, or what got you into reptiles, and at what point in your life was that?
So it was about 2019. I believe it was spring or February or whenever it was. Me and the old lady now, Raven, y'all see on the YouTube channel or whatever, her. So
yes, sir.
Kind of had a little fight with her. We're trying to get some brownie points, and she just hit me up randomly. She's like, "Hey, well, there's a reptile show in Corpus this weekend. I want to go." I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll go. I'll take you. You want to go? Like I said, I was just trying to get brownie points. I'd never been to a reptile show or anything up to that point, of course. And then it was, as soon as we walked in there, dude, it was like life changing, like literally. I
Yes.
was like, I had no idea it was like that. That everything was that it was even a thing like that. And
Yes.
I say that respectfully, because like I know some people spent their whole lives doing it and stuff, but it was like we immediately fell in love.
Yeah.
I walked around that whole show, it's like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. This is like better than the reptile part of the zoo.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
mean,
you
for
bring
sure.
for
Right?
holidays.
Yes, yes. Well, and that's so interesting, right? To kind of have that unique perspective and to come into it with that adult mindset and go, "Oh, what is this?" And
Yeah.
so that first show, did you guys end up picking something up or
We Yeah, we sure did. I actually bought Raven one of the first. Te- she'd already had a snake, so she had a ball python already. So I don't say her first snake, but we bought one ourselves, I guess, together, and we still have her today. Of course, she's actually a breeder ball python for us. But yeah, we picked something up that day and haven't looked back since. Really,
Yes, yes. And so how quickly after getting that first animal did it, because that's something that I experienced, I'm sure you experienced too, where you meet the person that just got their first snake and then 6 months later, they have 10 and they're going, well, I'm thinking about doing this, this, and this. It sounds like it was pretty instant for you and kind of what you felt walking in there. How quickly did you start really stacking up numbers?
very quickly. Uh, it was a very once we went in there, went and we got the snake, and I immediately my let's just say my YouTube searches and stuff dramatically changed the day after that.
Yeah.
I started doing homework, did this and that, or just into it. I kind of dove into it, uh, and 6 months after that first show, we probably already had 40.
Yeah.
So it didn't take very long for us to just dive into it and say this is my new hobby.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it ends up being a lifestyle, and I won't try to jump ahead too quick, even though I think we'll get there pretty quickly. But it is a lifestyle, after a while, and it's a good one. I don't know if you ever see videos online of people into trains or something. No, no hate for anybody into trains. If you're into trains, that's cool. But trains, skipping rocks, whatever it is, and you start hearing them talk about it, and they're really into it. And for me, that's just not my speed, not my thing. And I go, man, I'm glad I'm a reptile dork because I could have been a train dork, I could have been a rock dork. Like, I'm
Right.
good. I'm good where I'm at.
Yes. Yes. I have no regrets on that little bit of thing because I hate to say it, but I didn't really have a whole. I did fishing. I love to fish. At that time I was actually still living on the beach. Right there in a town called Port Lavaca. So I was about 45 minutes an hour away from Corpus Christi, actually. Right on the coast. So I didn't really have. But leading up to that point, I was already getting out of. I used to play basketball a lot. Go to the park, play ball with random people. It was.
Yes, yes.
It's not like I had crazy hobby that I was like into. So it was easy for me to give everything else up and spend my weekends going to reptile shows and then just learning and talking to people and learning and just kind of diving into it.
Yeah. Well, it's always so weird when you meet somebody that doesn't have a hobby. And I'm sure you've experienced that where, it's a friend or a family member and you're talking to them. You're like, what do you do for fun? I'm like, well, I don't, I go watch my kid play soccer and that's it. And it's like, you have no hobby? Like, what do you
Yeah,
do in your spare time?
yeah, yeah.
I
But
think, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, you're good. I remember you talking about that in the other podcast that you was talking to what's his name, saying that exact thing. Because now I can't imagine my life without it. In the sense of it, just like you said in that other podcast, like. What do you do in your spare time? I was like, well, if I'm not working, I'm working. I got to do something. I'm taking care of animals. Just I say working, but we love to do it. So it's a work of passion, of course. But like exactly like you said last time. He's like, I can't fathom not having a hobby and doing something
Yes.
te-
Yeah.
technically like that.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know about you, but I imagine that you've had jobs that demand a lot from you, and it's that constant kind of there's always something to do, and that was stuff that was instilled in me when I was very young. In my first jobs in the pet industry was at a pet shop, and my boss was a real just stickler for, I'm paying you to be here and I expect you to always be doing something. And I'm very grateful for that because it really instilled that always be busy, always be doing something. And maybe that leads to large reptile collections where it's like, well, I always have something to do.
Right. Yeah. I definitely agree with it. I mean, I got a little taste of it growing up because my dad had his own business. So even growing up when I was young, 11, 12, 13, was me and my brother was out there helping him work, summer times or on the weekends or whenever, we could technically. So it was always, and if anybody knows, like, I think you got a little taste of it now, once you start working for yourself, it's like, instead of punching in 40 hours a week, you're punching in a lot more because you got so much more stuff to do to make yourself, I say successful or, just keep yourself afloat, successful, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing that I wonder. How there's like milestones in a dog's life where it's like, you got to get the dog trained doing this by this point, or it gets more difficult. And kind of I can relate with that. That young age, and not only being a younger person, but then in a job where I am in contact with the owner of the business every day. And so that passion, that understanding, that dedication to that is demanded of you from that person, I think it instills in you that work ethic that a lot of people maybe don't run into with something like, right, whatever job they started off with. And, you know, their managers in the same boat that they are, really. It's like, I don't want to be here either, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a valuable life lesson. However we stumbled upon it, um, or the individual does, I think I'm glad personally.
I am too, the way, because my dad's one of them kind of, I say old school hard head, guys that just, yeah, you put your nose to the grindstone, get stuff done, get it done. And my grandpa was the same way, his dad was, my grandpa was still working 4 years ago and he's like 80 years old now. He didn't really retire until about 4 years ago. So you can just do the math.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No, I mean that's it makes sense to me. That's what we do. We work, right, no matter what it is, and if we're lucky enough to find something that we enjoy, that we can transform that into a living. Uh, it's crazy. Every day you wake up and it's like, wow, I'm working more than I ever have, and this is like I'm living a vacation for the last 3 years. Though this is amazing.
yes, sir.
It's pretty interesting. Well, excellent. And so, you got your first snake, you went down to Corpus, he hawed yourself into that, and it just turned it into this hobby that you have. And when was I understand you were going to shows, but when was it finally like, hey, we're gonna vend our first show?
Well, I can't tell you the exact date, but I think one of the Conroe shows, going to the Conroe, because my mom used to live right there close to Conroe, so we'd just go to that show, of course, and go stay the night, visit mom. And I think I sat down with Raven and I told her, I was like, I think we should start breeding snakes and just going, because we're going to the shows anyway.
Yep.
So, like, why not get into it? So it had to be, we was COVID breeders, I guess, technically you could say, because it was about 2020. I hate that because you know how the COVID people, the COVID breeders, the stigma with them, whatever you want to call it. But was definitely opposite of everybody else. That got into it then, when everything was good, whatever you want to say, whatever. But I don't know. I think it was. I don't know, maybe not even a year later, maybe a year, not even a year. It was
This
like,
one.
hey, we're getting so many and we got this and that. And we would still go to shows and you're like, hey, I like that snake. I like that. I like this. I like that gecko, because we have more than snakes, we got a few different species, and it was just like, let's just breed our own. And because I want, I didn't have enough money to buy everything, of course, so let's make it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was definitely the influences when I was younger. I ended up one of my first snakes. The first snake I ever bred was a corn snake, and then quickly got into ball pythons because that was the big thing. But I remember albino ball pythons being $3,000 to $5,000, and raising up hets like that was the coolest snake ever. And being like, well,
Yeah.
I can't afford to buy it, so I got to make it, and
Oh, yeah.
putting that time and effort into that. And it's so interesting how you know how the hobby has changed over time, but we'll get back to that. And so that first show, do you remember what it was like vending your first show?
Yes, it was very exciting, very cool. Um, that's why Corpus will always have a special place in our heart because, believe it or not, first reptile show we ever went to was Corpus. First reptile show we ever vended was that same Corpus show. So, uh, it was kind of, it was, yes, it was a great experience to be on the other side of the table. Of course, we didn't have much. I think I had hatched out, two or three, four clutches or something like that, and had a couple of snakes that I was just selling just to sell, a couple like a hog nose or two, that we decided we wasn't going to keep, stuff like that. But yes, that first show it was great. It was awesome. Had a great time. Uh, just a great experience,
Yeah.
just feeling like you was part of it. I say part of it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It
no,
was,
I mean I completely understand. I mean I think that's something that many people can relate with, is that it's the same idea where it's cool when you go to a local store or whatever, and you're cool with the employees, and you can hang out, and it's the same idea where you go from the the public side of it to the vendor side. We've right, I mean you've hung out at snake shows. It's a completely different thing, and it is super cool.
yeah,
It is a super cool experience to be like, oh, I'm the person now. And I think that also too applies towards, now this is something that you maybe didn't experience because you were a grown man going to these snake shows, but definitely as a younger kid getting into the hobby, you would go in and vendors would ignore you because you were a little kid. And definitely for me going and vending shows, to have that opportunity to go, oh, here's a little kid. I remember I got ignored. I'm going to pay attention to every little kid that walks up to me, and I will have a full blown adult conversation about that. I would, on the same level that I would talk to any adult that came to the table, I'll put as much effort into that with that kid. And that's cool to be able to do that, I think.
yes, I totally agree 100%. Because it does, just like you just said, it's you have a little bit of responsibility. So we look at it like that too, in the sense that we love getting the kids into it because that's the next generation coming up. So I personally think that's just as important, if not more important, than you talking to another grown man, or
Yes.
a grown woman, whatever.
Yep.
So I totally agree with you 100%.
Yeah, yeah. What were some of the I think that one of the worst traps in life that we all catch ourselves in is you don't know what you don't know. And from when you set up and vended that first show, do you remember any of the lessons that you learned from that where you go, I'm not going to do that again? Or this is the right way to do that?
Uh, oh, that's a good question. I think I'm not. I don't know. I mean, we definitely learned a few things what not to do and what to do. I say, but for the most part, it's basically just, I don't know, I guess, I don't know. I think you just learn how to, I guess, people themselves, I don't know. It's hard to explain in the sense of like, okay, when someone doesn't know, but you can take the time and teach them or show them, take them to water, but they still don't want to drink, that old saying.
Yeah.
But so you kind of have to, I don't know, maybe I had a sale or two that I probably was like, man, I probably shouldn't have sold that person that animal because I don't think that animal is going to get taken care of properly,
Yeah.
or something like that. Maybe, I've definitely dialed that in the sense of like reading people and talking to people, making sure they know what they're doing with the animal,
Yeah.
is the one of the most important things to us, obviously, 'cause I'd rather just not make the sale, obviously, and take care of the animal myself instead of giving it to someone who's not going to do it properly,
Yes. And that's something that you definitely run into, right? Again, my first steps into the pet trade, other than just a private keeper, were at a pet shop, and you have the customer that comes in that you're trying to educate that person, and they're just not receptive of it. It's not going to go well, and especially for me at that time, being a young, I started when I was 8. So when I say young, I mean I was a little kid, and I
and
wasn't gonna tell somebody no, get out of here, right? Like I just, okay, I'm gonna go with it, and you learn. But as time goes on, that's a confidence thing, right? And that's something that I've experienced in business for sure, where sometimes you get the customer that sometimes you have to fire a customer,
right,
and it's a weird feeling, and in the pet world, or especially in the reptile world, I feel like it's a feeling that a lot of people feel in exercise. Um,
oh yeah,
but it was one that was difficult for me at the beginning, and you learn over time that not everything's for everybody.
right, yeah, I definitely agree, yes, sir.
Yeah. No, and that's so interesting, kind of the maturity over time in yourself, and kind of how you were. It's that confidence, right? To tell somebody, no, this, I don't think it's for you, and let's do that. That can be difficult, for sure.
It is, yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, and so kind of those early shows to what you see now. What's the differences in the crowds that you get to see? You're someone that I very rarely vend shows. It's fun when we do, but it's not a focus of ours, and that's something that I think is more of a focus of yours. What are the different crowds like? And from the best of your recollection, how did they start off? And kind of where do you see it now?
Um, well, of course, everybody kind of knows the market went down a little bit, so definitely when we first started, even when we first went to our first show, and even when we vended our first show, the crowds were immaculate. They were busy. They were, nuts to butts. They're just crowded. It it would take you 5 minutes just to get to one table sometimes at a certain show. Just to see. You'd have to wait for people to get out of the way to get to the table.
Yeah.
So, and then because once we dived into doing shows, we started doing a bunch. Of course, and then it definitely died off. I've been to few shows, I say quite a few, but at least 3 or 4 shows at least that were just terrible. Like not no crowds almost at all, And of course, 1 or 2 shows may have been like the smaller circuit shows. Not that there's nothing wrong with them. Of course, I love the smaller shows too. Don't get me wrong, but there was a year or two in there where it definitely slowed down. And then from what I see now, it's starting to kind of bounce back because we just been to a show this past weekend in Longview, Texas, and the crowd was great. It was busy. We stayed busy all weekend. It was like one of them shows where you're tired afterwards because you're actually talking and standing up and talking and steadily busy and interacting with people and the whole shebang of it.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's starting to bounce back a little bit now, but I think for a year or two it kind of did die down just a tad. You know, it wasn't like it was terrible to be at a show, of course, but
No, and that makes sense, you know, and I think too, kind of the way that you kind of brought up, right, the whole idea of like COVID breeders and COVID hobbyists that got into it at that point, and I think that that was a unique time in the hobby that wasn't something that I had necessarily experienced in my time until that was the first time I'd ever seen it like that, and and I think that we'll see the changes of that over time. That I think that the reptile hobby is growing. And so we're going to see ebbs and flows in the amount of people that we have, but I think that the market is going to keep growing. And
right.
and I think that that's, you know, kind of interesting.
Yes.
Well, excellent. And so also too, I guess, what were the crowds that you were seeing? What was it like when you were first starting off? What were people looking for, the interests, and where do you see them now?
Oh man, it's kind of hard to say because we mostly always had ball pythons, so you know how that goes. Uh, I definitely think at first the ball pythons were kind of like us. You know, they were more prominent, and then over the last year or so, it's been people switching to different species. You know, talking to people. Of course, people at the shows. You know, you talk to a bunch of them. You kind of see what they're asking for because you know us. You know, if we're at the show, you know, obviously someone's asking, "Hey, where the hog noses? Where the bow is at?" You know, like, "Oh, they're over there." You know. I definitely think people has been asking us more where certain other stuff is instead of looking at your ball pythons or your little corn snakes that we have on our table, you know.
Yeah.
So it's definitely kind of switching, but at the same time, people still love the ball pythons. You know, I mean, they're still. I would still say I'm not being biased, you know, because because we have mostly ball pythons, but I still think it's the number one pet buying snake. You know, obviously
Yeah.
breeder and pet. You know.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you know, and that there's so many interesting points that you hit there, right? And so many different things to tangent off on and talk about. And one of them was something that getting to do this and getting to talk to older generations of keepers coming in was hearing some of those guys go, as the North American colubrid guys, that was one of the first ball pythons in the hobby, right? And I'm just generalizing again, North American colubrids. And it got to a point where people coming into the shows were asking about where are the ball pythons, where are the leopard geckos, where are these different animals that are now common to us. But the reason why they are common to us is because there was a demand for them from the public, and these animals bred well in captivity once figured out, right? Now, many people took their time and effort into figuring that out, and it wasn't just overnight with many of these species. But the reason why you see those species in the hobby in the levels that you do is because they do good in captivity. And many North American colubrids do good in the hobby as well. But it's a thing that seems to be frowned upon, and I can understand it, but I think that it's necessary for a hobby to grow, and so maybe there's going to be things where we don't like that, but it is the monetary aspect of the thing that we're doing and the value that's there behind it. And so that's what moved the hobby forward from when ball pythons became popular and a very diverse animal to from when I got into the hobby. That is an insane change of resources that are available. And I think a lot of that market was because of ball pythons. So people can sit here and be like, oh, I don't like ball pythons or however they feel about them. And, you know, teach their own. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. That's cool. Don't keep them. Do keep them, whatever. But as hobbyists in general, I think we owe a lot of where we're at now to the ball python industry.
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, if you know, anybody's got the sense of, like, just like you said, it's like, if you don't like them, that's cool. You don't have to like them. But I say dumb. I don't want to be rude, but it'd be dumb to say your reptile shows are basically the foundation of them were ball pythons, basically. In the sense of it, to make the shows where they are today. I know they didn't start like that, of course, because like you said, the North American, the colubrids and stuff like that back in the day, they were what started it technically, of course. But the shows and how the shows are today and how prominent they are and how big they are, some of them, ball pythons made them like that because it was the number one pet snake for a long time.
Yeah.
If it's still not.
Yeah. No, I think it probably is. I think it probably is. And I think it'd be very interesting to see a correlation, for whatever data is there, because it'd be very adjunct and just very spread out. But to see the number of shows and kind of the correlations in time there, I think it'd be very interesting. Because snake shows were definitely a thing back in the day, but it was reptile associations and clubs putting stuff on. It was
Right.
like, oh, we'll have our weekly meeting and then bring snakes out at the end. You know,
Yeah, yeah, and I say that with respect too, because I love other species too. I love colubrids. I really do. I have corn snakes. The only colubrids I have is corn snakes and uh, bull snakes right now. I got rid of my king snakes that I did have, but only because I didn't want to. I don't know. I just got rid of them, but I have corn snakes and bull snakes. But I will still say this to this day: the colubrids are still some of my favorite, if not my favorite. I really do love them. Like my buddy Matt from Florida, Glades Reptiles. He comes every show. He bends a lot of the Texas shows and the circuit over here. I'll hang out at his table a lot of the shows just so I can look at all his stuff and keep looking at it.
yeah,
Even though I'll see him this weekend. I'll see him again this past weekend. I'll see him again this weekend in Conroe. It's like I'm still going to look at it because I love him.
yeah. Well, I think too, what I think would be an interesting kind of case study for a ball python breeder would be look at the beer market and what can you learn from the companies that are successful in the craft beer industry to where they are. Where I think that ball pythons right now are a Budweiser. They're that, right? Where how many people can you walk up to and go a bearded dragon and they're going to know what you're talking about? I think that ball pythons have now entered that realm of a commonly household name for an animal that they recognize.
Yes. Yeah. For sure.
Right. So I think that there's always going to be a market for ball pythons. You're going to see ebbs and flows the same as you do in the beer industry, right? Where you don't see as many craft beers anymore, but there are companies that are craft brewers that are still lucrative and moving forward here. So how are they different? And the hobby has always been cyclical to me, right? Where we used to get animals in and my boss would get a good deal on a whole bunch of tarantula slings and we would have those animals for a year or more, right? Raising them up and just taking care of them. And they wouldn't sell, they wouldn't move. And then all of a sudden in a couple months we would sell out of tarantulas and need to get more tarantulas and this and that. And it was the same way with hedgehogs and ferrets and rats and all of these animals, all of these little individual things. Many of us get into the hobby and it is a lifelong passion that we have. But fortunately, unfortunately, however it works and everything in between, a lot of these people coming in and getting these animals, it's a thing that they're going to be into for the next 6 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And we're in an echo chamber where everybody around us keeps 50 snakes, 100 snakes. It's not a weird thing, so it's normal to us. But when you talk to people that aren't in it, it's not normal. But I meet everyday normal people, not that we're not, but different, that they have their one snake and they're happy with it. And that's, I think that ball python keeper hobby there is always going to be, because what the little kids are going to get suggested, it's what soccer mom Sally is going to be comfortable with. The dad, oh, my buddy had one of those. Okay. I think that they're going to be in the hobby for a long time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't see it ever them not being, of course, and it's like you say. I think it's a good happy medium for it. Just like you said, with everybody in it. Because I know a lot of people. Matter of fact, I was just talking to my buddy's mom uh, last night. Actually, went over there to hang a door for him. Actually, and she was literally ranting on. She couldn't believe that I had over 200 something snakes. She was like absolutely like the conversation. I say the conversation, but she would rant, conversation going on, and she still brought it back up. She's like, Nathan, there's no way. There's no way, So it
Yeah.
was kind of a trip to like your normal person can't, I say fathom it, but you know what I mean? Yeah, it's not, I
Well,
don't
even
know.
then, you still get it like, oh, they're crawling around your house. Like, no, they don't just crawl. It's not like a house cat.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's
But that,
definitely, yeah,
but
go
the,
ahead.
but the public is getting more educated to it, right? And I think that as we get more individuals and more people, right, spaces are going to become limited. And I think you see where the pet that people can keep pretty easily is a reptile. And so I think that we're going to see a growth in the hobby over time. Obviously, you see it with the equipment that's available. That's still changing and moving forward.
Yes, sir.
I think that barring laws getting passed that ban the keeping of these animals, I think we can see it growing, and you're going to get out of that group of people. You're going to get the people that go in deeper to it and go, okay, I want to get into a corn snake, or I want to breed these animals, or I want to this and that. But for so long, someone comes in and they're buying animals. It's like, well, you need to get a female because you're going to want to breed it in the future. And they're like, no, I'm not. You're like, yeah, but yeah, you are. And they're like, oh, okay. And that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I've sold a lot of snakes, several snakes, to people who just adamant on just collecting. They have a few. I even sold few snakes to people who's like, yeah, I got 10, 11. I'm not. I haven't bred none of them. I don't want to breed them. I just want to collect them. Or I say collect them, but just keep them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of course, being in the shows, we talk to all kind of people. So breeders, collectors, whatever. First timers, a lot of first timers.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. Right. And, just kind of just thinking about it. Right. The only bottleneck that's so different from many other hobbies is the longevity of these animals, of taking care of properly.
Right, right. And we tell people that. It's like, if you take care of the property and all that, ideally you're in it for the long haul.
Yes.
It's not like your
Yeah.
dog that's going to die in 8 years, 10 years, whatever.
Yes. My friend has a ball python that he bought as an adult import. And I know he said this animal is at least 30, and like bought it as a mature female, but it could be older. I'm just undershooting here so that I know I'm not wrong, but it's ridiculously old. And it's like, wow, it's like
Right.
goldfish. Goldfish have a really long life cycle.
Yeah.
How, how long does the average goldfish live? Not very long.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting, man. It's interesting, but I do think we're seeing more and more people educated in the hobby, right? And I think that's a good thing for the animals for sure.
I do too. I mean, and I absolutely love it. As long as and with all the social media and stuff nowadays, it's like I love it. Because I'm all with it. I love animals in general. Reptiles. Mammals, everything. I love animals. Period. I like the reptiles because they're kind of cool, unique. You can say exotic if you want, but I don't want to, say it and sound like an asshole or nothing. But I like it, the cool factor of them too. But yes, people get more educated and stuff like that. It's a great thing, good thing for them, mainly for the animals, obviously, of course. But I love to see it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's and I think yeah, it's going to keep getting better, and we'll see more growth in that. And so, kind of where from where you started and where you're at now, where do you see the hobby going?
Oh, I don't know. That's kind of a tricky one, but from what I see, I mean, okay, so for instance, like the NERBC Dallas show that we're doing in March, if I'm not mistaken, I think this show is going to be incorporated with the other animals. So it's going to have fish there, it's going to have some mammals, stuff like that. So, in to me, if I had my wish, it would be the hobby would go to the same place as you would see like dog shows or stuff like that, or normal people, like you say. I say normal people, but a normal person, would
Yeah.
still look at a snake or a gecko or something the same as they look at their house cat or their house, their dog.
Yeah.
So if I had my wish, it would be something like that. I want the hobby to be just like anything else, like any other animals. I don't want them to look at us like, oh, they're just reptile freaks.
Yeah. No,
If
and
I had,
yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think that that's something too where, right, like playing devil's advocate here, right? And looking at it from a different perspective that I don't agree with, but that many people are like, oh, it's the monetization of these animals and these reptiles, and there's some like fine artness of the I don't keep anything, I just field herp, and it's immoral to keep and again, teach their own. But me personally, I think that I would rather it be where more people are keeping reptiles, because I think that keeps more people from killing reptiles in the wild.
exactly. I agree with that 100% because, like I said, growing up, I didn't have anybody around me that did, in the sense of it. If I seen a snake or something, it was somebody chopping the head off of it.
Yes.
Obviously, maybe it was a bad snake, venomous snake. Maybe they just didn't know. But
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. So, because education is key. So if they know, hey, this snake isn't a bad snake, well, then don't kill it. So, and I'm also in between, just like you just said. I get it. I get it. When someone says, hey, I just feel hurt, leave the animal where it is, where you found it in nature. Okay, but at the same time, you got to have that other side too, to bring it to the light to teach people too, kind of.
Yes.
So it's hard for me to say or explain it, because I'm not. I am in the middle of it. Don't get me wrong. I keep reptiles and stuff like that. I can understand someone complaining. It's like, oh, it should be out in the wild where it was born, or where it lives, or nature. But like you said, I think it's more in education, or they want. It should be like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it should be the same as a dog or a cat or anything else, right? If someone posted a picture of them bludgeoning a dog to death on their Facebook, they would be getting a knock on their door, right?
Yeah.
And you very regularly see videos because the Facebook algorithm doesn't it goes, oh, snake, this person wants to see snake, here you go, and then it's some horrifying video of someone doing something insane to a snake, and you go, all right, I didn't want to see that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and it's not a big deal. And even if you do report it, you get a message back going, well, this isn't against our guidelines. But meanwhile, people's pages are shut down for, selling reptiles or whatever.
And that's what I tell people too. I was like, how crazy would you sound to someone if you said the only good dog is a dead dog?
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, and you look at them like they were crazy. I was like, what?
Yeah. Or someone said, oh, I love my dog. And someone goes, man, one time I ran over a dog. And you go, what? Yeah, man, I hit it, and then it was still moving, and I backed back over it, and you're like, what the hell? Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was the neighbor's golden retriever, and you're just talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to your previous question of what I see the hobby going is like, I mean, I'm not, I hope it just goes up, obviously, but I hope it incorporates with that, so let it be the same as any other animal, right?
Yes.
If you were to say that about a dog or, running over your neighbor's golden retriever, I mean, come on, dude.
No, it wouldn't fly.
Yeah,
You would be
yeah,
invited to the cookout again.
yeah.
Something's wrong with that guy at a minimum. I think it's a good thing, and that's that's the interesting part about this hobby is I think that many of us and yourself included are at the floor level of it, and there was many people that have that I've gotten to talk to, right, that have been doing this for way longer, and to get to hear those people's stories and to hear what they dealt with, and then to see where we're at now, it is pretty cool.
Yeah, yes, I 100% agree. I've been, of course, I don't know if I said it earlier, but I've been loving your podcast and hearing some people's how they talk. Because obviously a couple of them I know, a couple of them I don't know. So hearing it and just the information and the knowledge that they know compared to what I know. Because like I said, technically still a rookie in my eyes, obviously. And it's great to see and hear. Learn still learning stuff.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's something that if you always realize that you're an idiot and you're willing to learn, then you're always going to be doing good. And I think that's a good just kind of stance in life in general. I know that I apply that to myself where I go, I'm an idiot, and every situation I'm going to go into, I'm here to learn, no matter who it's from, right? And maybe I don't take anything from it, but I'm going to learn a different perspective.
Right, right. And you gotta soak it all in. Really you learn from it in a good way or a bad way. You're still learning, so it all goes in together.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll never forget, man, you had asked me one time, I know you probably don't remember that conversation. I think we was visiting that Dripping Springs show or something, maybe. We was talking about bull snakes. Don't get me wrong, I'd already known about localities, of course, but at the same time you had asked me about localities, I started talking about morphs, and I was like, afterwards I was like, damn, I feel like a dumbass. I was like, yeah, it's about localities. I'm sitting there talking about more, it's like, what I'm
No, not at all. And and that's what's so cool about the hobby, right? And what's so interesting is there is all these different interests. And that's what makes it go, right? If everybody was into what I'm into, it would be pretty boring. But it's
right.
super cool that there are people that go, "Oh, I want to make this crazy thing," and maybe I'm not in the market for it, but I see carpet pythons all the time where I go, "Holy crap!" I saw some blue tongue skinks a couple days ago where I was like, "That is so cool!" It was like a pink and white blue tongue skink.
Yeah.
And if you gave that project to me and said, "Here, breed blue tongue skinks," I probably wouldn't have come up with a white and pink one. And how cool is that someone had the focus to do that, and that's what's so cool about it. It's something that comes up a lot where this is kind of a form of art. I think that if you look at it in that way, and the time and effort that goes into people molding these projects, right? Because, you know, to kind of what you're talking about with locality, right? Like, locality is a weird one because a lot of the locality animals, especially if we're talking about like a gray banded king snake, there's a lot of like standouts where people will kind of look at an animal, you can get a general area and kind of an idea. But a lot of the, if you just people that kept captive bred animals and weren't into it, you showed them an animal, they're going to go, okay, this is a Christmas Mountains, this is a Juneau Road, this is that. But there's so much variation in between those. And the reason why we have those established locality lines in a lot of these animals is because early on someone said, oh man, I really like the orange on this animal, I want to make them more orange. And so they kept breeding back and back and back to make this, you know, extraordinarily orange and whatever animal or whatever you're into, whatever stood out to you. And so it's interesting, especially when you think about the actual movement in these animals and when you break down locality in a way that's actually substantial. It's a weird way we keep a lot of these animals due to gene flow.
Yes, yeah. And,
So
and that's why I love it too. Like you say, people who did that, and took the time to think, hey, yeah, let me put more orange in this gray band, and stuff like that. That's why I love it all. People can hate on ball pythons or whatever, like you said, to each your own, but I, me personally, I love it all. I love all animals. I love different species, like with your boas and everything, 'cause at the shows, I'll sit there and talk to people because I love, like it kind of just, how do you say it? Tick your rocker or whatever that old saying is, it's like, I love it. It's like, yeah, sit there and look, what made you decide to do that in the sense of it, I kind of that's why I talk to people.
yeah, well, it recharges your batteries.
It does, it kind of refreshes you because, I mean, and it's, yeah, it kind of gives you a new, a little bit of breath of life in the sense of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that if you've been in this hobby long enough, and it's something maybe I should ask more people. These guys that have been doing it for 60 years, 40 years. You go, what? Tell me about burnout. Right now, you're going to meet the freaks that go, "Oh, I've never experienced that at all." But getting to talk to people and hearing that passion in that person, I think it does. It refreshes that little battery and keeps that burnout meter from coming.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would imagine, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah, what a cool hobby, right? And everybody's particular interests. And so kind of with that topic and not, I guess we don't talk about if you don't want to, or don't say anything you don't want to talk about, but kind of what are the projects that you're the most excited about in your collection, and what are you aiming for long term that you're willing to talk about?
Well, I mean, I don't have any secrets, I mean, I got a YouTube channel, so we show a bunch of stuff, I don't have anything. And, and I say that out of respect of the sense of, I'm, like I said, I'm still technically a rookie. So I know there's people that's got way cooler stuff than me, but definitely, right now this year we're gonna probably hopefully hit some double recessive stuff, more double recessive stuff with our breedings. Uh, there's a lot of certain projects I'm definitely excited about. Uh, I could start talking about more some different genes, I guess, if you want me to, but
Well, talk about
um,
what's interesting to you about it.
it's just, I mean, it's so cool to get when you get a clutch or something, and it's like you get 8, 7 eggs, 6, 8 eggs, whatever, and you got 3 or 4 of them just look totally different from that. It's like, oh man, that's so cool. With your genes that you're putting together, right? And then look in the if you want to be honest with you, in the future, I'm actually really excited to put my bull snakes together. I want to produce some bull snakes. I have some beautiful ones. We actually just picked up another one this past weekend in Longview, and So right now with the ball pythons, like I said, I have a bunch of genes and stuff I could rattle off and tell you what these projects are and stuff like that. But in the future, I would definitely say mostly ball pythons. Will always be ball pythons heavy, but also some more colubrids going too. And I say colubrids, my bull snakes, my corn snakes, stuff like that. But the bull snake's technically my favorite colubrid now. And I would almost have to say that's probably my favorite snake now.
Yeah.
And that's no knock on my ball pythons.
Yeah. No, no, by any means. But I mean, how polar opposite are those two animals, right? That I think that to have those two as your favorite, I think that that's very well rounded because it is as unique and different of a colubrid that is such a weird animal when you really think about it, right? Keeled scales, their defensive posture, how they eat, just a super different animal, and the size of them, their activity, just again, just so different.
Yeah.
Super cool to have that as the two animals that stand out to you, and it makes perfect sense to me. I think that's well rounded.
Yes, it does, man, and I love it. And maybe I'm just that type of person because I'm that type of person. Even like with music, if you give me the aux cord or the speaker, you're gonna hear some country, you're gonna hear some rock, you're gonna hear some rap music. You don't know what's coming.
Yep.
Even the opposites. But it is. I don't know if that was a good comparison or not, but it is because I love my ball pythons, but I also extremely love my bull snakes.
Yeah. No, and I think that gets back to the whole idea and the concept of reptile breeding being a form of art, right? Where those are the brushes you're painting with right now, and that's the palette of colors that you have, and whether intentionally or not intentionally, the animals you decide to hold back and breed are going to be a representation of what stands out in your eye and your unique perspective on it. And, that's something that I'm always, because again, we get to talk to all these different levels of keepers, right? From people that have their first animal to the person that has 10 that has, dreams of being a multimillionaire ball python breeder to the person that has, 50 animals, 100 animals, and everything in between. And and those people are going to put their influence on the animals that they breed, and it's all going to come up different, but do what you like and focus on that, and it might not be cool for a very long time, but if you stick with it because you enjoy it and you make the best vision that you can possibly make of that animal, at some point someone is going to find interest in it. Whether that matters or not, I don't know, but if you want to move whatever your interest is, there's nothing wrong with other people thinking it's cool, the thing that you think is cool. And someday somebody will go, "That's badass, you did that." you know.
It is. I mean, I agree 100% because, like you said, at the end of the day, it is kind of living art to me, especially with the snakes and stuff. Because I tell people that it's like on the inside, they're all the same. Out they got different paint jobs.
Yeah. I mean,
So
because
it's
think
like,
to me, what would be I would see it and I'd be like, that is badass. A really nice exanthic ball python that's a mature animal that came out looking like a baby exanthic. I'd be like, damn, that is cool.
yes,
And
yeah,
right, that's just me. But if someone did that for however many years it took to make that happen, I would be pretty impressed by that.
yes, yes. And that's why I love it. Because you can see it, and like you say, I'm already thinking when you see stuff like that, even at shows and stuff, it's like I can kind of comprehend now. It's like what, how long, or I say how long, what, like it matters, but I guess it does matter when you think about it to get to that point. You made that badass animal. Did you make, did you breed it? Yeah. I was, fuck it. That's badass, dude. Congratulations. I love that.
Yeah. Well, if our time wasn't finite, it wouldn't be as cool. The fact that we only have X amount of time to make it happen, and someone showing the dedication over their limited amount of time to make that thing a reality, again, that's kind of what makes it art.
Exactly. And yes, I love that point too, because you hear people say all the time, oh, life's short, life's short. Well, what is short, because hey, that project just took that guy 8 years to do. I mean, 8 years is a long time.
8 years is a long time.
Or however long it took him, but regardless, it's still a long time.
Yeah, well, even at a minimum, right? 8 years. If you think about taking it, right, an albino animal and trying to reproduce that, you know, nowadays
Yeah.
I know ball pythons, the turnaround on them breeding is not what it was necessarily when I was getting into it, but you know,
Yeah, I think
regardless,
the shed testing and stuff has helped a lot, so you don't have to kind of wait 3 years, year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, to
yeah,
kind of guess if it had that other recessive
yes,
or gene in it.
yes. I mean, and what again? What an amazing step forward in the hobby that it's still very early in its infancy on what it's doing, and that's super cool.
It is, it goes back to like you said, it's like, hey, I hope it just continues to get better, the whole hobby as a whole, every species, obviously. I hope it just continues to get better. Of course, people were going through with the last year or so with the down market and stuff like that. It's like, that's just sales and money wise, to me in the sense of it, and I don't want to step on those shoes or nothing, but it's like at the
Well,
end
it's
of the day,
just
you still got time you're still with your animals. You're still doing the things that you want. If you're as passionate about it or still loving it and still making the animals that you want to make, well, then to me, I don't see no problem with it.
yeah, for sure. Well, excellent, excellent. Is there anything that I should have talked to you about that I didn't? That anything I should have asked you, or anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover?
No, not really. I was just super excited to be on here with you, like I picked with you last time, It's like I know you've had some good episodes come out so far. You're doing a great job, and I was just super excited to get on here and be able to talk with you.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I look forward to doing this again with you in 10 years, and what's changed from then and now. I think that's the coolest part. Is not everybody I talk to is going to be someone that's been doing this for longer than we've been alive, and it'll be really cool to talk to people like yourself that might be newer in the hobby, but you're out there. Some little kid is going to remember you as the first person that sold them a snake that got them into it for the rest of their lives. And so, who knows who a conversation like this is valuable to in the future? And it matters as much as any other one. So, I appreciate your time and you taking the time to talk to me. And I look forward to doing it in the future.
Yes, sir, for sure.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much
Let
again.
me zoom out on you here. Okay, you got a message for the time capsule?
Yeah, and it's simply this. My prediction for you is that even though you'll forget all about this in some way consciously, next summer at about this time, you'll remember to return.